Hi, I'm Reb Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years now. I'm going through the lessons this year, as I've done for several years, asking Jesus for clarity and then writing from that clarity, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're still on the review 6, and we're in lesson 211. I am not a body, I am free, for I'm still as God created me. I am the Holy Son of God Himself. In silence and in true humility, I seek God's glory to behold it in the Son whom He created as Himself, as myself. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. First, I am not this body that appears so very real and relevant. I am not this body because this body is an image that represents a thought in the mind. It is an image that allows me to experience separation and to see myself as special. It does not in reality exist. So when Jesus tells us that we are the Holy Son of God Himself, He's not speaking of this image. He's speaking of our true self, and this self has no body. It is not an image and is not the effect of a personal desire. It is real. It is creation. When I first started studying the Course, and for a long time, I mostly identified with the image. I felt like the body and its stories. It felt like me. Slowly, that began to change, and I felt less like the image, and I began to identify more closely with spirit. Now, generally, when I say me or I, my feeling is that I'm referring to my true self rather than my made up self. This is by no means a total shift. I know that it is not, because evidently I still desire to see specialness sometimes, but that will fade away too as I keep releasing those thoughts. I can say in all honesty that I do seek God's glory, to behold it in the Son whom He created as myself, my true self. I seek it in everyone. And when I find an ego perception instead, I go in silence and true humility to the Holy Spirit for correction and another way to see. I'm going to share with you something from a Pathways of Light course that emphasizes releasing the belief in specialness. It's been extremely valuable to me to do the exercises it suggests and to share them with my mind healing partner. It asks us to look at the many ways we want to see specialness. In one of the processes, it asks us to recognize specialness thinking by thinking of ways we see differences and orders of reality in the people in our life. Look, it says, it quotes text 24, section 1, paragraph 7, when it says, look fairly at whatever makes you give your brother only partial welcome, or would let you think that you are better off apart. And so this is how I see specialness in my thinking. This is from that course that I was doing with someone. First, special love. There are people in my life who I prefer over others. This makes love special and makes love personal. Love is neither. It is universal and it is unconditional. If my mind were completely healed, I would love the one in front of me and then the next one when he or she showed up. There would not be a difference to me. Love might be experienced differently because of the nature of the relationship, but the love itself would be the same and would not lessen depending on the person. And then there's special hate. Another way this can show up is if I think I'm better than someone else. This makes me special at the expense of another person. or even if I think we're both special in our lack as compared to others. I used to have people I hated for their personalities or for their actions. All of this is just a way of making separate and different. Also, anyone I would hold a grievance against. I don't do this nearly as much as I used to, so I had to dig deep to find specific circumstances. I thought about someone I know who is mentally ill. I see us as different. I discovered that someone I know well has gone over the deep end with conspiracy theories. I see her as different than me and want to avoid socializing with her. Sometimes on Facebook, I run into people who think they have all the answers and everyone else is wrong. I think they are wrong. I want to let all this go. I want to know love as it is, not as I would make it. I want to know oneness, and there cannot be exceptions to oneness. I can imagine this, so I know I can have it. In doing this process and others like it, and in reading sections of the course that focus on this error, I've discovered some hidden and not so hidden ways it comes up in my beliefs. This has helped me to release more ego thinking. As I do so, I find I'm aware of what is the same in each of us, the love of God that we are, rather than focusing on awareness on the illusion of differences. This, in turn, reinforces the desire to know myself, to know that I am God's holy Son. And so we talked about seeking the glory of God. I seek God's glory in two ways. I continue to monitor my life and my thoughts to see what is blocking my vision. I meditate more, and in this meditation, I sink into my mind below the surface level of the ego and find my true self, or at least that is the goal. I will succeed, of course, and I have used various techniques to help me overcome the ego desire for distraction. I've recently started listening to the silence, understanding that this silence is my true self. It is the Holy Spirit. I might also refer to it as becoming aware of awareness, because awareness can be another way of referring to my true self. From silence, all sound arises, is what I read. And I have discovered to my surprise, I can be aware of silence even when thoughts are floating through the mind, even when people are talking to me or the ambient sounds are loud. I think this is important because I am starting to relate more closely with that from which all things arise. That is myself, my true self. No matter what is going on in the story, I remain the eternal watcher, the experiencer of what shows up, the watcher, not the judger. This is pretty new to me, so I'm not consistent, but I am sure it will become so. And this I'm going to share with you is from a past entry when I was just beginning to seriously consider what it means to be as God created me. And here's what I wrote. I am with us all, the Holy Son of God. I and all of us together, the family of God. We are the Son who was created as an extension of God, who has never changed. I remember who I am as I release all that I'm not. I remember who I am as I release all that everyone else is not. It is true for all, this knowing, or it's not true at all. We're not guilty, not vulnerable, not afraid. There is no jealousy, no confusion, no sickness, no suffering, and no death. There is no one who is separate from me. These beliefs in guilt, vulnerability, fear, death, are what I must relinquish if I am to know myself, because they are not part of me. I'm so accustomed to believing what I see with my eyes and what I feel with my bodily senses that it seems insane to deny these things, but that's exactly what I must do. I will continue to be aware of them while the story continues. But I am learning to deny the body as real and deny the world as real. Vulnerability is the very opposite of my reality, as is guilt and fear. I am immortal. So, what could death mean to me? I have all knowledge and complete certainty. So, how could I be confused? All of these things are experiences that we chose. In our power as the Son of God, our choice unfolded in all its impossibilities. And we have been in the midst of this choice for eons of time and for no time. This is what I must accept if I'm to end this dream of separation. As I accept it more fully, the business of releasing all that is false gets a little easier. Today, I look at my mind and I see acceptance. And I look at my life and I see witnesses to this acceptance. I see how much happier and more fulfilled I am in my life. I see people, all sorts of people, expressing love and kindness toward me. I see guilt and fear falling away. That is, there are certain forms of guilt and fear in my life that are no longer there. I used to see the fear that my retirement would be financially difficult and that I would suffer lack. That all went away and has not returned. I see those thoughts sometimes, but I don't believe them, so they have no effect. On the other hand, I see thoughts in my mind that need to be corrected. I see the worry that arises around my children. Most recently, I've gained weight again, and I wonder if I will ever let that go. I have a little war going on in my mind. I want to lose weight, and evidently, I do not. And I want to quit using my body as a battleground between opposing desires. It seems like such a shallow thing, and the ego argues that I should not even care. But Jesus says that a broken body shows that the mind is not healed. And this is, in my mind, a broken body. This business of believing I'm helpless before this problem and believing that I'm a victim to a body that seems to have a mind of its own, or even that I'm victim to my own false ego desires, is ridiculous and yet persistent. What I see is that weight gain is for me symbolic of all resistance to accepting the mantle of divinity. And that is my purpose now. It is no more and no less important than any other symbol of resistance. I want to know myself as my Father's son, and yet I'm evidently still afraid to accept my place in Him. As in all things, I choose to release this to the Holy Spirit. I ask that He heal my mind. I long to remember myself, my true self, and to remember my God. Here's something else that came from one of my past journals. Again, I'm looking at this idea I am the Holy Son of God Himself. Knowing this to be true is the whole point of everything I do in my life. Every day of being vigilant for my thoughts and in being willing to look with the Holy Spirit, even though it's sometimes frightening to do so. The reason I study the course and read related books and do the lessons. I'm moving ever closer to knowing this truth that I am the Son of God Himself. There's little point in doing this unless I am willing to know the truth. And so I also practice every day, sitting with the idea that I am as I was created, the Holy Son of God. I just try it on and play with the idea. I think about being a creator and what that means. Yes, I have become willing to accept total responsibility for everything that happens in my life. But I have been unwilling to admit that this is a form of creation. It has been creation gone amok, but the same power that creates also miscreates. It could not happen if I were not the Son of God. The Course points out that while I have not created anything that is real, it's not without power. I have made illusions, but my belief in the illusions is very strong, and the dream state they have left me in is very real to me. I will not wake from this state by denying my power and denying my sonship. Even in my dreams, I am the Son of God Himself. I am determined to awaken to the full knowledge of what that means. So, Holy Spirit, my deepest desire is to remember what it means to be the Son of God. Please help me to see differently, to know that I am asleep and not to mistake this slumber for life. I'm also willing to learn with joy. I think you've been showing me this is possible, but I cannot seem to hold on to that. I find myself to be in tears often. And my message from Holy Spirit: precious child, Holy Son of God, your deepest desire is also the desire of your Father. You cannot but have what is the will of both. It seems not to be true. If it is only because that is not your only desire. But do not despair. It will become your only desire. Every day that you spend with me in strengthening your resolve and loosening your hold on every other desire helps. Indeed, it's not necessary that this be sad or hard. We spent an entire day laughing, and that was very joyful, was it not? It is an ego notion that hard work is painful work. The ego can be joyful and will be joyful when you decide that guilt will no longer drive your actions. Guilt is a decision you made and has nothing to do with God. I invite you to release this iron grip you have on the need to precede every healing with guilty thoughts and subsequent pain. If you will open your hand, I will take this from you. We could spend every day in gentle laughter. And I said, Holy Spirit, I'm willing. But even as I say this, I feel tears welling up in my eyes. I don't feel especially sad about it. It is as if there is a disconnect somewhere. I really don't understand this. And he said, as more things come up for healing, you will have emotional releases like this. Sometimes you may feel pain with it or grief, but those will be caused not from releasing ego thoughts, but by resistance to releasing them. Either way, you're doing your work. Thank you. And I thank you, Holy Spirit, for being always with me. Thank you for your clear and ever present voice. So that was interesting for me to go back and look at those past writings. And sometimes I was further along than I ever realized, and sometimes not so much. But that's to be expected. And it's wonderful to see the growth, to watch through my writing that I'm growing, that I'm healing. If journaling is at all uh, something that you would consider, I highly recommend it. Okay, thank you for sharing this lesson with me. Um, and thank you for liking it if you do, if you find it helpful, and subscribe if you haven't yet. And thanks to all of you who've already done so. And I will be back tomorrow with another lesson.